Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you for being here. I'm Archana Nair, your host for the day. Sharing the screen with me is my colleague Arvind Kannan. Special mention to Nitin Naveen, VP of Innovation Strategy at AI CoreSpot, and Naveen Kumar, who will be helping us behind the scenes to keep things smooth. Before we dive into the today's session, I'd love to share a quick overview of AI CoreSpot. For over 5 years, we have been on a mission to build a global AI driven knowledge community that connects technology leaders around emerging trends. Our webinars and hybrid events are grounded in real world insights from industry experts, and we continue expanding our content library through blogs, video snippets, podcasts, and newsletters. If you'd like to stay updated, please visit aicospot.io and follow us on social media. We'd love to have you with us as we grow. Today's webinar is all about AI and future of work. I'm honored to introduce our speakers for today's panel. I'll be bringing up their names as they appear on my screen. Ross Schamberger, VP Engineering at Waterford; Chris Newdecker, Senior Director of Engineering from BAG Financial; Abhilash Vantaram, VP of Emerging Tech and Global Head of Innovation at InfoVision; John A. Wilson, Director of Insights and Analytics at Brookdale; and Mamta Suri, Senior Engineering Manager, Walmart Global Tech. Today's session will be moderated by John Mendes, Vice President, Global Practice Head at InfoVision. A big thank you to our speakers and all of you attendees for showing up, engaging, and making this space vibrant. Now I'm all ears and excited to hand over the stage to the moderator. The mic is all yours, John.
Thank you, Archie. Good morning, everyone, where you're joining us from. And good morning to our esteemed panelists as well. We've got a great topic for our discussion today, AI and the future of human default. We have an extraordinary lineup of tech experts and fellow innovators from various industries, retail, BFI, the tech space, welcome and experience Mamta, Chris, and Abby, having led major product innovation data AI initiatives. I'm very excited with them, just as much as the audience. They're going to get started off in a minute as we speak about it from how it's been 2G to 5G and 6G efforts underway, mainframe edge computing, rule-based AI to real-time, precise, explainable systems, voice SMS, data from just a few sources to the Internet of Things. And companies like NVIDIA, that's been a backbone for everything from the GeForce 256 to the Blackwells, has today become the back of factories for drug discovery, having and real video creation. So as we will also touch on the significant role that enterprise platform companies like Salesforce, Agentforce, or hyperscalers like GCP, AWS, and Azure are playing in the adoption of GenAI. Some of the challenges and opportunities for different industries, ethical considerations, the security, the regulatory requirements, a few different topics. We're going to solve that before we start. Just a quick housekeeping for our audience. Look at the chat box on your screen. If you think of a question for any of our panelists at any point, just type it in there and we'll get it booked in towards the end based on the time. Perfect. Dive right in. To set the text on, there's been evolution of AI. There's been a siloed ecosystem-wide integration from Gen AI space to agentic systems that are blurring the lines between augmentation of skills and automation. There's been explosive growth in AI adoption, where we've seen reports that says that it hit 100 billion before, and it's projected to reach 300 billion. While all with a pinch of pragmatism. MIT surveys that in uneven ROI realization from Gen AI investments. And there's a lot of chatter about an AI bubble that aligns with elevated competition investments that are like P's getting involved, investing in AI companies. Like I said, the context, but speaking on the landscape, my first question is for all the panelists. I'd like to hear your views from your respective industries. So this is the question. How are developments in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other employees transforming businesses and industries today? What are some real examples that you see in your industry and your client industries? With if you could to be in the retail development, the SaaS space.
Hear me? Sorry. All as well. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction there, John, as well. And I'm just going to chat in for myself that the first time I ever got into what would ever be considered an AI was 10 years ago, right? That was my first forte. And it was very limited. And it was more like Google Vision, where we're training Google Vision to understand what a car wreck would look like. And then be able to notify an attorney in a certain location that a car wreck might have been occurring in a spot that would be beneficial to them. And it was very minute, very small, very narrative to a degree. And since those 10 years, AI has changed a whole lot. And in the next 10 years, I can only imagine what it's going to be. For us in finance and lending, what AI is really helping us out in those aspects is how do we overcome fraud? How do we overcome security? How do we do engineering much better than we did in the past? How do we get loans quicker underwritten for our customers? How do we make our customers happier? How do we engage them more aspects as well too? So throughout this conversation, I'll certainly touch on those items for us all. And the one thing that I've seen the most, at least benefit to us, is just being able to create agentic agents that develop code for us. To be honest with you, that's been the biggest thing for us. It's coding, it's testing, and it's deploying. Because for our organization, we've had a multi-year backlog. There's a lot of requests. We might be small in nature, but we have a ton of things that go on because we deal in so many states, and each of them have their own requirements as well too. So being able to code faster, get our releases out quicker has been the greatest aptitude for AI. It's still scary. It's still amazing at the same time. So you have that love-hate relationship with it, but that's been the greatest proponent for us in our success at BHG, and I think in the finance industry in general.
Perfect. So what are you seeing in your industry?
Sorry, John, I couldn't catch which name you called.
John?
Okay.
Would you like to go ahead, John Wilson?
Sure. Sorry, I was having trouble hearing too. Thank you so much for having me. So my name's John Wilson. I work in data in assisted living and senior care, healthcare more generally. And what we see in the greater context is the silver wave and the rise in the population of older adults, where 1 in 5 US residents will be over 65 in only a few years by 2030. And at the same time, staffing for critical healthcare jobs faces extreme headwinds. So we see this shortage in supply with a greater increase in demand, and to fill that gap, of course, we'll be implementing and using a variety of kind of AI and technology solutions. In healthcare, those challenges are mainly interoperability. So that's what I do mainly in my consulting work, to engineer solutions that allow systems to talk better to each other, so we can connect the dots between EMRs and, say, financial systems. There's, of course, preventing caregiver burnout, or healthcare worker burnout. That's a critical issue, which I could talk more about. And generally, improving patient outcomes, and number 4 is limiting and automating as much documentation and administrative work for healthcare workers. So those are all use cases where we see these kinds of solutions really have a benefit in healthcare, to close that gap between supply and demand, especially as the aging population grows.
Perfect. Thank you, John. And Mamta, would you like to share what you've been seeing in your industry, especially in retail, and having worked in the tech, the SaaS space as well, Mamta?
Yeah. What we think is that basically, so like Chris said, like AI is not new. It's been there a while, since the 80s, but with Gen AI coming up, this technology just became a lot more accessible for everyone, and there's a lot more use cases we are seeing. So it's pretty much transforming all of the industries we know. And it's also re-engineering the retail industry, of course, SaaS industry, and broader ecosystem. So the core shift is more from like earlier AI project, ML projects to work with. It was detecting anomalies, and in certain, like when I was working at Workday, detecting anomalies in the data, doing a lot of development and all of those. But now it's been to more proactive, driven, and more agentic autonomous systems. That means, like, from use cases, all different angles. So we have, for example, conversational shopping agents, right? We have and it's like AI has Google when, we had earlier, but then when Google, it became anonymous with search. So that's what we're seeing with AI a lot, and a lot more people are adopting it. This is there. Right? So people are eating it. They don't want to, like, when you're shopping for something, you just want to say, I would, like if I'm shopping for clothes, like I want, like, bag or dress, whatever, and then it just shows you everything. Or if it's like more talk to chat, and no, I don't want color of red, or I want this color. So it's like, going over. It's just having a conversation exactly what you want, and then getting the product that you want. So that's a shift for sure from the consumer side. From an engineering side, of course, we have all of these tools at disposal now, like the GitHub Copilot. We have ChatGPT, all these different agents that or tools that us with create these much more efficiently, and documentation. We can write testing, of course. It's to, and I keep really focusing on that point, that security and human in the is still AI can write, but it's understand the text. It still cannot go into the conversation with your stakeholders, but it definitely improve your efficiency. So as long as we're using it mindful, we're using the right reasons, and we're taking care of the security and privacy issues, is a great name for those use cases. And I've never seen such a accelerated pace of any technology in the last 25 years I've been in the industry.
Thank you, Mamta. I'd like to hear from Rose and then Abby as well on the same question.
Sure. I want to pick up what Manta said. I want to make sure that audience understands that AI exists for the longest time. Some of the frameworks that we've done with AI, they have been here for a long time. Of course, technology, hardware, data lakes were not there to enable this explosion. Gen AI is the new darling. I don't think there is any conversation that someone doesn't say, do you use AI? Do you have an AI product? But the most important part for me and my company, Vertifor, it's not my company, but I work for them. Vertifor wants to be a leader in AI. We are an insurtech company that, as you guys can imagine, has tons of data. And any industry that is data intensive can benefit from AI. What I would recommend, and then what we are doing at Vertifor, is that to understand the customer pain points and focus on those. You can do tons of things, right? You can do from internal benefits in productivity to small things that you can catch patterns. But the most important part to me on when you think about leveraging AI is how you align this to the existing workflows or improved workflows, and how you leverage that knowledge and velocity to help humans perform their jobs better. And then this combination of the humans and the AI, I think it's where you really unlock the power of the tool and make sure that you are really benefiting the end user. In the case of Vertifor, we really want to position ourselves as the AI leaders for insurtechs. So we have a whole bunch of things that we are cooking that I am not going to share, but some examples of use cases that are actually simple use cases, but they really are pain points for our customers. For example, a lot of our customers are agencies, and you'll receive a whole bunch of emails. How many of you have your inbox? And then you don't read your whole inbox because you don't have time. There's no human time for that. So having an AI that can help you read the inbox for you and translate those into tasks and plan those tasks for you, or even summarize at the end of the day, unlocks that productivity that will allow the agents to now work with the customers. So it's not a replacement, it's just an additional tool that helps you to grow and help your agents to be way more productive. This is one example. The other example, which I think it's very common in all industries, it's knowledge base, right? You have a new employee, or you have a new person joining an agent's. It's very regulated, especially in places where healthcare, for example, it's another example. You cannot just do things because you think that, oh, this is fine. There's a lot of regulations. Some of those vary by state, and it's hard to get up to speed really quick. And then leveraging the data that you already have, all the knowledge bases with security, of course, can help new employees, can help even new customers to understand the limitations of what you can and cannot do, and apply those with a higher degree of confidence. So I am looking forward to what this technology can bring to everyone. And I know we're going to be talking about this. I just want to make sure that we are all using it responsibly. And even though I am in technology, I don't think AI is the solve it all. I think it's a very powerful tool that you have to leverage to help people. So thank you for the opportunity, John, to speak on this webinar.
Well, thank you so much, folks. We've heard various inputs, various use cases across the industry. AI is being used and last, I'd like to hear from Abby, you as well, especially a lot of the companies in the telecom space that you work with, the high-tech space, right? What are you seeing with respect to use cases and implementations?
Yeah, thank you so much, John, and thank you, every of those amazing thoughts. First of all, and for team topic, very contextual to almost every conversation happening across industries. I'm from a systems integration background. I'm with InfoVision, and we work across industries to drive innovation. And some of these emerging technologies can be part of how they need to look at what it should look like. And everybody looks at the hype cycle thing, and yeah, AI is of its hype now. But I think, like Mom mentioned, that is probably one of those technologies which is probably living up to its hype cycle to a good extent, right? And it is definitely one of those technologies that has given the impetus AI towards adoption. And we still look at AI as an emerging technology, mainly because of how the progress with generative AI, additional enhancements like those, because industrialization for AI hasn't happened to the level that we all expected it would happen. But we are certainly seeing AI and emerging tech move experimentation the core of the industries, right? In telecom, for example, customer service is shifting to intelligent virtual agents that handle first level support, taking to zero ticket for customers. It's a journey. You need to get to that, but it's a progressive maturity model that you need to look at, and we are definitely getting there in terms of how we start with agents probably getting the augmented information that they need to do their work faster, to do call handling times and things like those KPIs that every organization should on their call center purpose, for instance, and also from a customer experience and NPS perspective. Then you're also looking at reducing toil and the time that's required to. A lot of time is getting consumed into doing analytics for in telco network optimizations or things like those, for instance. Right? This core of the business, and a lot of time into a lot of this analysis, figuring out what to do, where to plan. So a lot of these things are now starting to get automated. So we start bringing a lot of this data, apply AI and a combination of traditional AI as well as generative AI and agent tech to start moving towards self-healing services. So it is two parts. One is it is definitely reducing the amount of toil that your teams are putting into it, but it is also in terms of the speed of response that you need to. So we are addressing those things and slowly moving it from a humanist to a human verified systems to a large extent, right? So definitely over the past few years, especially the past 2 to 3 years, in telco and high tech, things have certainly changed in terms of some of these options from perspective. There other use cases are definitely looking at, which are very internal focus to the organization, and not just high tech. There's across industries we're seeing. How do you enable auto BI? Talk to your data directly, right, and get those insights directly from your data. How do you look at omni-channel data and make sense of connecting the dots across all the data you have across every channel, and can get what you need to get there. Content discovery is a huge problem in organizations, and generative AI has really helped in streamlining some of those things. And I think one use case I personally gotten very excited about is worker knowledge retention. This is a huge problem across industries. People have a lot of institutional knowledge. They've been with that organization for a long time, working, doesn't work, systems and everything. But as they move on, it's not that people want to share. They share it as need, but take that and institutionalize that knowledge. It becomes a common knowledge base for everybody to use. And how do you extract that out of the experience that each of your resources have and build that appropriately? So this is a huge problem, and AI is really helping drive, normalize that problem a little bit. You can keep going on. Another 15-20 use cases like this, but these are the kind of solutions that we are seeing industries predominant. One recent rewriting use case we started looking at is how do you start using video LLMs? Traditionally, we've always looked at, for example, you need to start looking at floor planning, your process optimization. Maybe we should get a lot of quantum computing to become a little bit more affordable. But what we are starting to do now is start looking at using video LLMs, which are like traditional LLMs. Traditional LLMs look at data, make sense information that is in text and like those. Here, video LLMs understand the context of video, for instance, with real world context. And how do you make sense of a lot of the video content that you have, to understand where processes are taken. Floor plans can be remade, so you have better efficiency, safety and health standards and fix. These are very, very core use cases that can billions of dollars for organizations in terms of their liabilities and their optimizations as well. And these are real today. So these are the kind of advancements in terms of adoption, especially in recent times.
Okay. Thank you, Abby. And we've heard about so many interesting use cases, implementations, right, from caregiver burnout, anomalies, shopping, across engineering, across finance lending, how it's been used across network optimization, self-healing. A lot of this is definitely in line with the optimism that we see today with respect to what some CEOs are speaking about in the AI space, right? We all know today that NVIDIA's chips are powering nearly every major AI system, from OpenAI's ChatGPT to your Amazon, your Meta data centers. And so when their CEO, Jensen, says something, everyone takes note. And during a recent discussion, he stated that we are in the next industrial revolution. And from here, it's about to go up by 1 billion times with respect to the demand for computing, where it's going to draw today's already massive levels. A pinch of pragmatism, while AI promises growth through 2030, 92% of companies are reporting integration barriers. They're speaking about skill gaps, data silos. Per an MIT study, hybrid human AI teams yield 25% higher decision accuracy, but only 18% of firms have mature collaboration frameworks. And another recent landmark MIT survey said that 91% of Gen AI projects fail to link to measurable ROI. And we've all read the Deloitte update, probably, where for a $1.1 million contract, there was flawed reporting riddled with AI-generated errors. There was fabricated citations. This was in the healthcare space. So I'd like to switch gears a bit over here and focus our discussion on some of the challenges and the opportunities that we see. And my question is for John. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and definitely soon after from Abby. John is the Director of Insights and Analytics with Brookdale, and someone who's very passionate about combining the science and art of a business strategy. What opportunities and challenges do you see in combining human expertise with AI-driven tools to enhance productivity and decision-making?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. Because ultimately, our goal in healthcare is to improve patient outcomes, and that starts by reducing hospital readmissions, but also, improving the burden of documentation on healthcare workers and reducing burnout. So at companies like Brookdale, I have led initiatives on the business side to help evaluate and assess using predictive analytics to measure stress levels on different healthcare workers so that we can identify potential areas of opportunity to mitigate those administrative burdens or risk of burnout on the front lines, and that helps enable the the operations leaders and the people actually doing the job of patient care. We can help identify those opportunities before they actually become problems, like in the case of burnout. On the administration and documentation side, there's a huge opportunity for productivity enhancements with AI in transcription services that are directly linked to EMRs, where a nurse in the afternoon does her daily rounds, and instead of taking handwritten notes or remembering each conversation after the fact and entering in the progress notes into the EMR for each patient, that she could have a tool, a device, or some kind of AI-enabled system that transcribes those conversations and automatically adds them to the EMR for her to edit, perhaps. There's obviously got to be a human in the loop at some point, but it's a critical, and it's an extremely I'm optimistic about that opportunity in transcription services. And you could also, to your point, Rose and Abby, use that to help build a book of knowledge, a knowledge base for further improvements and enhancements to reduce the administrative burden and reduce risk of burnout on this critical worker in the U.S. economy. Without healthcare workers, we would all be a lot worse off. So, and with that increase in demand, with the aging population and the reduction in workforce, these kinds of tools are more important than ever.
Thank you, John.
No, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, John. That's and John, if I may build on top of that. That is absolutely good on what you said and specific examples. And just to go back from what in earlier, absolutely. So the sweet spot is human plus AI. It's not human or AI. The sooner the workforce starts realizing that, I think the executives realize that, but it is more around the workforce who need to start realizing that this is here to help me do my job better. And it's not versus AI, right? So AI can analyze massive amounts of data, uncover data, handle routine tasks from an automation perspective, recommendations instantly that you would take some time, right? But humans do bring, in today's world, humans do bring some of the ethics, they bring some amount of thought process to the direction and the strategic. So we start looking at how to bring these together. As a prime example, about SDLCs, how can we improve developer efficiencies and things like those. And it came as a huge surprise to us as we started to adopt this at scale. We have co-pilots, we have everything that we need in terms of enabling different SDLC personas to do their job better. But what we realized is that there has to be consistency of the process across everybody. There is the developer who is the skill part of the equation. There is the tool like co-pilots or there's so many tools that are out there in terms of SDLC acceleration. So that brings the tool element and the LLM piece of it. But there needs to be constancy in terms of how do you bridge the gap between the skills and leveraging the tools from a process perspective. What are the right prompt libraries that are standard to you? How do you enable AI? How do you train AI so that it learns the right things, and then it's AI's turn to help you do your job better, right? So how do you enable this entire process? It was an uphill task for us to change that culture, adopt that entire thing within the organizations, our organizations, client organizations. So the challenges are trust, skill gaps, and culture. And in some cases, we've also seen the challenges to be over reliance on AI as well. That is also not good. If people can't interpret AI outputs, or worse, if they assume that it is always correct, you risk automation bias in a lot of cases, right? So those are some of the challenges that we've seen. You need to bridge those gaps, and there is still a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of process realignment and understanding how this needs to be done. Another big challenge, John, you were asking about challenges. Another big constant challenge we've seen across organizations is data. Garbage in is always going to be garbage out. And many organizations are starting to look at, how do I start leveraging AI use cases? But if they're not building their foundations from a data perspective the right way, and you don't have to do moonshot projects here, right? So you take the use case and you start building that towards the use case from your data perspective, going all the way to ROIs, to business outcomes. And that is one of the biggest challenges we've seen, is data is always the problem. And that is one of the reasons we see so many different stats coming in from the Gartners of the world, where we see that AI adoption is really low. But the big fives of the world are coming back and saying that we are seeing a lot of AI adoption here. Yeah, there is marketing elements to it, obviously. But at the same time, there is also, because they're going through very specific use cases, starting from data cataloging to business outcomes, they would see better results there. But in general, the industry is lacking some of those things. That is why overall, you see your adoption rates are very, very low, because many projects fail because the foundations are not right, and you're looking at technology adoption rather than solving a business problem. Technology should always come next, right? So these are certain challenges that we're constantly looking at. Adoption is another problem. You can build whatever you need. For example, one of our top telco customers, we build the most amazing agent assist solutions. When a call comes in and the representative takes the call, contextually in real time, it's able to tell, hey, these are the things that you need to talk to them about, because the context is happening. I have the insights for you. There's a lot of churn in promotions. Nobody keeps up with what promotions are active. So there is integration towards those to say that, hey, these are promotions that are active, you should apply these. But I was personally on some of those calls to A/B test some of these on how these are helping out. And I'm looking at the screen, and it's giving a lot of really good contexts, a lot of really good insights. But the agent is so used to his own culture that he wouldn't even look at what it is. He would just go with what their usual flow is. So adoption is another key part of it. How do you enable that adoption? They need to see the value in it, right? So for example, what we've also done is implemented something called a promise agent. If an agent is making a promise that I'm going to do ABC things for you between now and Monday, I'll call you back on Monday, and I'm going to make sure that you have all of these things. Then it listens to those, it creates that this is a promise, and it puts that as an action item into their inbox, it puts it into their calendar, and come 12 o'clock on Monday, noon, they get that pop-up. But what we're also doing there is giving intelligence about what are things that this rep can do in terms of upselling because of the context we've gained. And that will help them meet their KPIs in terms of their upselling KPIs and everything as well. So that they've started using a lot more because there is benefit to them, direct benefit that they're seeing. So adoption is another key thing. And how do you enable that adoption? You can implement everything that you want, but if you don't change that culture and adoption, it becomes a huge, huge problem. Responsible usage, I think either Rose or Mamta had mentioned about responsible usage. That is a corporate liability, right? So these are challenges that we see day in and day out that needs to be addressed organically and through process.
Okay. Thank you. I loved it. To summarize the challenges, it's the culture change, the trust, it's the skill gaps, it's the over reliance on AI, the data optimization, having the foundations in place, focus on the business problem and not the technology, and adoption by everyone involved. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Many organizations, I do want to add one point that many organizations across industries we have seen, they are reluctant in adopting some of the Gen AI technologies because they do not trust that my data is going to stay with me. There's going to be leakage somewhere, right? So those trust aspects have to be properly and legally, reconciled. And these are not technical issues. These are not necessarily even process issues to some extent. These are just certain trust issues that you need to handle legally and have the right, agreements in place to make sure that you can trust your vendors to do the right. Another thing I forgot to mention is you platform enable LL MLOps, recommendation platform, feedback operation, observability. These are multi-million-dollar engagements in themselves, right? So when organizations are not looking at the bigger picture and they're looking at, I want to do this, and then eventually they realize that there is this entire strategic investment I need to make behind it, it just falls through the funnel and they're like, yeah, this is way too much to take on right now. So these are also the reasons we are seeing a lot of AI initiatives fail, because they're not strategically setting themselves up for operational execution.
Perfect. Thank you, Abby. And my next question is for Chris. As a senior director of engineering with BHG Financial and having held leadership roles with Baptist Health, with Citizens Financial, having led major AI automation initiatives across multiple platforms, what do you see as the biggest misconception companies have when trying to implement AI at scale?
Yeah, that's a great point. And it kind of leads up from what Abby was talking about. It's what I call the vast kettle effect, right? And imagine this large pot. Everybody at the company hears that you have AI or some kind of tool that's going to revolutionize aspects and so forth. And so they all come with their ideas and they all throw it into this pot. And it becomes just a vast amount of work for somebody to accomplish, but with no true directive. So that vast kettle gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it starts to overwhelm people. And they start to think, oh, this is not going to be worth our time. It's not going to be worth our money, etc. So they didn't really start with that plan. And then you've got the snowball effect. Once you get past that vast kettle effect, that may be able to find the best recipe for you and your team, that snowball, they start to see that success, and then they come right back and they want to add the snowball as it's rolling downhill, and they don't want to finish what they had. They want to just keep adding to it because they believe the success is still going to continue to mirror out. That's been the biggest aspects that I have seen in my past so many years, and why things would fail or things would get convoluted at times. For me, at least in the past few years, what I've done is I just said, let's just stick to what we can do with agentic agents. Let's solve for problems that we know are specific. We don't have to boil the ocean. We don't have to worry about the vast kettle effect. Let's stick to the things that are going to help us and help us be better and quicker in things that we need. And those were those items we talked about before. It was development, testing, and releasing, at least in these instances as well. We do have it for data. We do have it for other aspects as well too, but we knew that those were our biggest roadblocks because they were holding us back as an organization from changing faster than we needed to. So by just doing that, we've seen incremental increases of multiple 100%, right, from getting things out the door. And that's been the success that we've had. Now, our success doesn't mean that it applies to everybody. It just means that it has worked for us. So we were more strategic about it as a group. And I'm hoping to hear other successes similar to that as well too here.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. And while we're speaking about these and some of the misconceptions, some challenges, the opportunities that's there in this space, and there's a lot of chatter that we see about and hear about job displacement as well, like the stats from the World Economic Forum, the Future of Jobs report, that states that, hey, I mean, there's going to be 85 million jobs at risk by 2027. But at the same time, it also states that there 97 million new ones are going to be created. So my question is probably Rose and Mamta, if you could please take this. question. I'll start with Rose. As a vice president engineering, and having led 250 plus member teams across R&D, across engineering in your role as a chief technology officer and as senior director at Friendor, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. How can companies mitigate bias, job displacement, skill obsolescence while adopting AI systems, all while addressing fear of disruption, the pressure to deliver ROI, and the pace of change?
Yeah, so humans are funny because we develop technology and then we first experiment with the bad and then we are like, oh, okay, there's another use for that. So going dark here a little bit, we found nuclear fusion, and then all of a sudden we have bombs, and then we realize, okay, this is destructive. So how can we use that technology for the positive? To be fair and honest and transparent, a lot of companies actually are looking into replace humans with AI. It's a wrong mindset in my perspective, but that's their focus. That's where they're looking into. They're not looking to serve better customers or to improve the quality of life. They are really looking into their bottom line. And then, so in this case, there is nothing that can be done, right? Because the intention is there and it's clear. On the other side, especially if you are in engineering, there is a reason why everybody has a manager, a leader, and why everything that we do has a separation of concerns, right? If I do the code, I don't review my own code. If I push something to prod, I don't test my own test. So this concept of checks and balances has always existed. And then it's helpful because it brings a different perspective. So the best way to avoid bias, if you have good intentions, is to make sure that you adopt checks and balances, and then they have the proper perspective aligned with your business goals. You have to be continuously looking into that and moderating the conversation. The main benefit that you can bring, especially initially, and then to Irvin's point, increase adoption, I would say, is to, what do you don't like to do? I haven't met a developer that likes to do documentation. If you guys know them, let me know. I will be hiring. So leverage AI for that, right? So use AI for the things that you're not willing to do, or you're not doing well, or you don't want to maintain, because documentation is something live. You're not going to ever end because the code keeps changing. So there are plenty of usages that using AI unlocks humans' potential, and then that's how people should start their AI adoption. And with that in mind, create the proper check and balances that will enable you to evolve your AI adoption in an ethical and safe manner. So again, I think everybody here agrees AI is a very powerful tool. We're not going to stop this, but we really have to be conscious that every single technology can be used for the good and can be used for the bad. If you start already thinking that you're going to use for the bad, then I don't know if I can help. But if you want to use for the good, yes, it is possible. And then there are very simple checks and balances, the same ones that you already have today. It's just aligning human with AI and making sure the human in the loop is there with diversity, with critical thinking to help your adoption and you achieve your business goals. So that, to me, it's the basic of anything that you do in business should be ethical. AI adoption is not a different business adoption.
Perfect. Thank you, Rose. And Mamta, as a leader in engineering with Walmart Global Tech, and previously the CTO, co-founder with AdmitMe, and director of engineering with DocuSign, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the same, please.
Yeah, I mean, Ross covered it, a lot of the aspects that, come to mind when you think about how to balance this, right? Like we hear about, and it's in the news all the time, right? There's the scary news, and then there's the benefits of AI, and then there's job displacement. And John, you gave two examples of where it's saying that it's increasing the jobs, and then also it's displacing the jobs, and um, like how companies are not able to get the efficiency out of the AI, that the MIT study. So this is a very complex um, question in itself, right? Like, how do we balance it? And as we integrate AI into our systems, we definitely need to balance innovation with responsibility, with security. Um, what's happening right now, I'll give you an example, is like a lot of the companies are trying to go so fast that they are forgetting some of the checks and balances Rose talked about. And this is not even an AI problem. This is a leadership and just common sense thing that leaders just need to do. So scale AI. If you guys remember, when the deal came out for Scale AI, that Meta bought it for $14.3 billion dollars. There was a security hole that also came out, that Scale AI was using Google Docs for their prompts, for their customer data, for their secret projects, and it was set to visibility to all. Okay. So this is like, this is 2025. So this is an AI company. And of course they fixed it and they fixed the hole and everything. But my point is that some of the processes and processes, they are the same that it always was. Like Rose said, like, it's just like any other business adoption. We cannot, in the race of going fast and reaching, like whether it's competitive pressure or whatever it is, we cannot, I cannot stress that enough. We cannot, just be lenient with customer data, with employee data, with any sensitive data, and think it's okay. So you really have to have the guardrails in place, whether it's AI or whether it's anything else. So when we're using AI products, again, the biases and the upskilling and all that, that will come into place if you're using it responsibly first. So responsibility and the transparency needs to be there. If you're bringing AI into your organization, you need to have the proper checks that it's not going to do harm to your organization. It's not going to leak your company's data. So all of that. And, the bigger companies, of course, they have legal and privacy and compliance departments. For a lot of the smaller companies, they would have to like really invest in that. That will be the first thing. Second thing is, as you're using these models, so for the biases and making sure you're using it responsibly. So that is also a lot on the leaders. So making sure, how is the data trained? Are you using diverse data? Is it for an internal use case? Is it for an external use case? So a lot of the things that are basic leadership principles, again, apply here and as you roll out any process. The third thing, upskilling needs to be done, right? So a lot of since I lead an engineering team, so engineers, anyone who's dealing with technology, they're really embracing it. They are on the forefront of it. But then there is a lot of the other people in each company where you have to make sure that they're upskilling, and then they also know that they're using it correctly. So just like with the, when internet came out, when email came out, we were clicking on all of these phishing emails, and now we have gotten smarter, but those phishing emails have gotten even uh, much more smarter. They're using AI, hackers are using AI. So as you're upskilling our employee population, we also have to make sure that we are also training them that what is a responsible use of this technology, what is the right questions to ask. And then I also want to switch it to not just from a corporate side, but also from a personal side. As a mother, as a person, what data are you sharing with your? So there is some responsibility that, of course, the regulations are going to be catching up. But then, of course, companies, as you use it and you develop on it and you use it in your products, you have some responsibilities. But then third, just as a normal human being, just like with Facebook and Insta and MySpace, there were like all of these cases that were coming out. So what are the right information to use to share with these chatbots, especially? Um, I'll give you one example, like all of these imaging products, like you put your picture and you get a professional picture, right? And then all of these other things. Teens are using it. Do you know how data is going to get used in like 2 years from now? Who owns that data? Once you upload a picture, who owns it? So those are the questions you need to ask. So a lot of this, I'll just summarize it. It starts with building responsibility. So make sure that any of the business principles, any of the leadership principles you have learned in all of the other, uh, rolling out products, building processes, rolling out processes, those still apply. Security and responsibility still apply. Second thing is asking question, making sure you're using it responsibly and ethically from a corporate perspective. And then the third thing, you're using it responsibly and ethically from a human perspective.
Yeah, John, I just would like to add one thing. The bias is a human feature, right? We all have our own bias based on how we grew. And then as much as we want to say like, okay, we are open-minded, we do have our own bias. We create the AI algorithms. So when we say AI is biased, I want everyone to understand that we are creating that. The risk there is that the AI bias perpetuates and accelerates some of those stigmas. But at the end of the day, the best way to prevent bias is to really do what you would do without AI, is to have checks and balances, is to have guardrails, and it's to use diversity. Because if you don't do this, I love when people say like, oh, AI is biased. And I'm like, well, a human created that. So let's not push the blame on the tool, right? Like we are using it in a biased way. And then that is the part that we have to always acknowledge, like AI hallucinates, we create AI. So don't blame the tool, bring it back, take accountability, and use the same processes you would use in without AI environment.
Yeah, John, if I may just add to what Mamta and Rose said,
Sure.
there's something very interesting that we tried to do over the past year. So to remove some of this bias, what we did is we put certain automated guardrails as well. It's the whole idea is to do as much as automation as possible. That's what everybody is looking at. But ultimately, in the enterprise world, full automation should not be the end goal. It should be responsible automation, like I think how Mamta mentioned. But having said that, what we did is anything that your AI solutions are producing, we are trying to have an adversarial AI that is validating that and trying to see whether it is biased. There's like 7 or 8 different parameters that we validate on and say, if I do not agree with what you produced by 70%, 60%, 80%, whatever that threshold is, then raise an alert that, okay, there's some bias introduced into this, or however it is, right? It's flagged. Now, the problem with that, while it is very helpful, it is also trained on the same data. So if your data is biased, then your outputs are automatically going to be biased, right? So that is one key thing that, again, there's no amount of overemphasis on this one. Bias isn't just a technical flaw. It is often inherited from the data we use, right? So companies need to do those regular audits, like the checklist that Mamta and Rose are talking about. Those checklists have to be in place. If you do not have those, no amount of guardrailing will help, right? And that's the reason. Again, it's not about a human has created this, but that is the reason, especially from a corporate perspective, when we talk about responsible AI, it is a process. It is not a template that you follow for every organization. Each organization needs to look inwardly to say that my responsible AI means that I'm going to have data people in there, data stewards in there, business people in there that are putting the business use cases. Data people have to look at what this means. Is there PII included? Should it be excluded? Things like those. And there is legal in the whole setup. There could be 14 or 15 departments that are in the whole approval process and the audit process to make sure that happens, right? So responsible AI as a concept itself is going to be pretty elaborative and expensive, but it is absolutely required to make sure that these checklists, these check items are addressed at every point.
Thank you, Abhi.
I'm done.
Quick time check. So we have 15 minutes. I'm going to request for 1 minute answers for the next couple of questions, right? So we spoke about the applications, the challenges, the opportunities, which also leads to the question about how companies and leaders could build practical roadmaps for adopting and scaling AI initiatives. So my question is to all the speakers. So feel free to go as you feel fit. How can leaders navigate, build a phase strategy for integrating AI, one that balances innovation, workforce readiness, and operational stability as they move towards greater automation?
I'll jump in quickly. I'll emphasize the importance, again, of alignment with the technology strategy with the workforce strategy. You see at companies like Moderna that are incorporated, that merged their technology function with HR, you begin to build a better culture around data and using these tools for ultimately to improve the lives of your customers, of course, but immediately in the short term, your associates, your employees, and that enables us to build a better compensation strategy around talent management, talent acquisition, and these kinds of efforts. When we align technology and workforce management, we can achieve better HR and people-oriented outcomes for our employees, which in turn would improve the outcomes for your customers, because you have a better, stronger company with a more integrated strategy across all of these verticals.
Thank you, John. And anyone else would like to add to it?
Please go ahead, Mamta.
No, I just wanted to mention that, it definitely needs to be balanced. The innovation with the pragmatism needs to be there. And you mentioned phased. It needs to be phased, right? So we cannot, it's the technology is here, everyone's using it. So you don't want to be left behind. So that's one thing. But anyone who's just starting or want to accelerate a little bit, it again starts with taking small steps. So it also depends on if you're just using AI to help improve your products or you're building AI into your products. So those are two different things. But again, with any of these things, making sure that you do pilots. Let's say you're just wanting to use some AI tool for, let's say, Copilot or Claude or something. So using a small pilot, seeing how it works, what are the processes, what are the CI/CD pipeline looks like, that we're still having a person to review the code. It's not just all written by AI, things like that. If you're building products with AI in it using those LLMs, then you definitely need to have the security, the guardrails, making sure you're having the proper checks and balances like we talked about. So having small pilots, having those guardrails, and then communicating early, measuring the results, the ROI. So for example, like AI is not the answer to everything. Like we said, it started in the 80s. Some of them, sometimes people just want to put, oh, let's use AI for this. But again, looking at your use case, is AI the best use for it? Or is it a simple algorithm that we already know how it performs will be better to do it? So there are definitely some things that LLMs are better at, like conversational experiences and all that. But anything on the back end, we again have to check if it is the right use case. If it is, then definitely, then again, going through those. So it's a whole checklist, the processes. I have some of them, I think, on my one of the articles or on my website also. But it is starting small, measuring the impact, measuring the ROI. So how much you're investing and how much you're getting in return, that is very important. And then like you don't want to be one of the studies in that MIT that you invest in all of this and then you're still not able to get the efficiency out of it. So that's where the small steps actually lead to the bigger outcomes.
Thank you. This also takes us to another important topic, right? So a lot of AI embedded systems, I mean, it states that more than 50% higher breach, GDPR fines are increasing for a lot of the AI projects as well. So when it comes to the ethical consideration, some of the security concerns, Rose, would you like to speak about that? And what are data privacy security risks that arise when AI becomes deeply embedded in workplace systems? And what are the biggest organizational ethical risks of moving too quickly to a full automation? I'd like to hear from Rose and then Chris.
Okay, you give me a mission impossible here. My saying is, if you are online, it's not a matter of if you're going to get hacked, it's a matter of when. So I'm sorry, yeah, it's a little scary, but it's true. So going back to what Manta was saying, it always starts with what you display and then how you enable data to be out there, right? From a company's perspective, it's very normal when you are a startup, you're not, oh, it's just a little amount of data. You are not embedding security in everything you do. So this is not an AI problem. This is a security problem, which right after COVID, someone said that cybersecurity would be the next pandemic. And we're seeing a lot of hacking. The thing is that bad guys work faster than the good guys. But to me, it's not about AI in this case. It's about a security mindset that you have to have in everything that you implement. I think Europe is way ahead of US in terms of protecting users' privacy. We need to catch up on that. We need to, it doesn't matter if you are doing an AI agent or if you are doing a new e-commerce platform, you really need to take people's data seriously and privacy seriously. The part of the problem to me is on regulation. Today, your data, nobody, even the most ethical person, your data is money and they want to leverage that. The side effects or the unintended consequences of that is that your data today is with way more people than you would even imagine. You go to the doctor, someone has your social security. You go to buy something, someone has your name and phone number. So data is out there. And if not everyone is looking to protect you and regulations being created to make sure that John remains anonymous and then he's not a occurrence for everybody that it's trying to exploit, there's not much that, back to what Arvind was saying, like the data is already there. And then if you are using this data, yes, you're exposing people. So it's way before AI to me in terms of security and exposing people's data. It's based on how you start everything with a security mindset and then a privacy mindset.
And to add to that,
I just wanted to mention it's becoming so scary these days. I think we're coming to the holiday season, but I think about a cruise to the Bahamas next June. I don't even talk about it. It shows up as an ad on my TV the next minute. So I'm not sure how this data is proliferating, but it's scary.
So, and to add to Rose's aspect real fast, and I know we're almost out of time, I just, for us, as we develop and we build our agents, I certainly work with the security team, and we have a document library that we add to these agents so that they understand the premises that we're trying to accomplish, and that those are the checks and balances amongst that. And I hope others are doing that too, but it's something easily to overstep and forget because you're so focused on the mission as well. But that's something that we have incorporated. I'm sure many others have as well too.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.
And I'm sorry, I meant Abhilash, not Irvin. I'm sorry.
Sure. I just have two more questions. The next question, I'll have Abby take this question. And the last question, I'm going to request John to start off, and we'll go around the room. For Gartner Magic Quadrant for enterprises, 70% of tasks will be augmented with agentic AI, handling 40% routine work, while deferring creativity to humans. As for full automation, it states that 20% of sectors like data entry, human in the loop, with human in the loop, safeguards is what they're looking at. Does that match the crystal ball from your perspective and what you're seeing in your industries? And how will advancements in the AI space shift the scales? How do you envision the balance between human augmented collaboration and full automation evolving over the next decade?
Very good question, John. And yeah, it's we can probably ask AI to predict some of these things, but see again, going back to automation versus responsible augmentation, right? So I think we are there today in terms of looking at how responsible augmentation needs to happen. With all the checks and balances in place, right? So human in the loop needs to be inevitable at some point. Yeah, there are certain things that you can automate, but until you reach that point of you're comfortable with what those results are, your data is always changing. It's not that your data is going to be static once you define it, right? So there is always going to be that angle that hallucinations may be introduced. So it needs to be a place where, from a principal perspective, I believe corporates and enterprises need to look at it from automate the process, not the responsibility, right? So AI can support, it can accelerate, it can enhance, but full automation in especially high-risk domains that erodes trust, it violates compliance norms and things like those, and shifts ownership into gray zone. No executive, no organization wants to look into something like that, right? So responsibility needs to stay with the humans. Automation of the process can happen. Augmentation to human needs to happen. And even as you go into the next decade and changes, I feel that in terms of all the liabilities that you can expose yourself to, that is how organizations will approach this. There will be things like, in telco, you start looking at fully autonomous networks and things like those that increases a lot of, NPS, customer experience, and low network times. It impacts your bottom lines. So all of those things are there. Yes, you can do a lot of those, but especially when ownership and responsibility comes, it has to stay with the humans. And I feel that is how it's going to evolve into the next decade. You're on mute, John.
Sorry for that. Thank you, Abby. And this last question, I put it together based on my discussion with Chris about the upcoming caregiver shortage that we're going to be seeing by 2030, and how technology is going to be that enabler to close the gap in healthcare, and exciting times ahead. And I'd like to start off with John on this, right? And then definitely go around the room. So the question is, as a leader in the technology space, any parting words of wisdom to individuals who are starting their careers in technology and want to thrive in this ever-changing landscape? What's your North Star advice for them?
Thank you. And this has been a great conversation. I appreciate all the questions and thoughtful answers by fellow panelists. I'll just say that in technology and beyond, curiosity is the most important characteristic I find in terms of analysis, continuing to ask why. You see results, you see different trends in the data, but when you see opportunities or challenges, ask why they exist and what you can do to solve them, and remaining curious about the problems and challenges ahead, keeping that the person in mind, ultimately, because we in healthcare especially is a people business, and that that curiosity mindset helps always keeps us grounded. So that would be my parting suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to add to it?
Yeah, I have if you have ever surfed, I'm from Brazil, so surf has been part of my life. But if you ever surf, you're going to notice that people, they are sitting on their boards. And then when the wave comes, sometimes they're like, oh, okay, let this wave go. But a lot of times you really have to paddle to get to the top of the wave. If you don't do this, and then you are too close to the shore, the wave comes over and smashes you. So as any new technology, there will be multiple waves of AI. You have to make a conscious decision. Am I going to paddle and then be on top here and then ride this wave? Am I going to skip this? But do not ever stay looking at the wave coming after you, because it's going to crash in your head. So that is the worst position you can be ever, right? So that is my business advice. As a person, use with responsibility, educate your kids, family, employees, everybody about the power that it has. It's like teaching someone to drive a car. Cars today are part of our lives, but they can be lethal also. So drive AI with responsibility. That to me would be the most important advice that I would give everyone. Make conscious decisions and drive with responsibility.
And on my end, real fast, before it's over, I would also say AI can look overwhelming, just like Rose was mentioning. It's that wave that's coming at you. AI is going to put you on the same level as any other corporation. As an individual person, you'll be able to be your own entrepreneur, just like any other company, and build things just as fast and to do things for yourself more than you ever thought. Now, I promise you, this technology will give you that ability if you just change your mindset and you look at it as, hey, this is my surfboard. I'm going to ride this wave, and I'm going to be on the same level as any other company out there, because I now have the same power to do the same things and maybe even do them better. So don't be afraid of it, embrace it, and be prepared to move forward with it. Because I think entrepreneurship is going to be something that you'll see grow exponentially, just like influencers. Somebody started off, and then all of a sudden others behind them that got there, and they're all on the same level. It takes nothing else to do it except just positive attitude and focus. You'll be able to do that with this as well too.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I believe that's.
John, I just want to mention one thing from my side. I have a lot of students who ask this question, and my advice always to them is build those strong fundamentals and foundation. Right, you need to have AI fluency. You need to understand how to work with intelligent systems, but before that, do not take shortcuts. Just because co-pilots are there, if you do not have a strong foundation on how to build an application, what that architecture means, how we need to code, just because co-pilot is there, don't go to that, right? At least do your due diligence to build strong foundations, and then start leveraging intelligent systems. My daughter, she loves writing. And recent times I've seen her starting to use Copilot to create her original characters and to create scenes and everything. And I had to stop her and tell her that, you're killing your own creativity. Write your own stories. Use Copilots to refine them, but do your due diligence. Do not take shortcuts. That's my advice.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to add a lot of good advice already. Um, it's, career, like right now, things are changing so fast. I feel like it's almost like you're trying to build furniture from IKEA and the instructions are being rewritten while you're building it. The parts keep changing, and someone now told you that you have to build something completely different. So, strong foundation, absolutely. Um, as you mentioned, Abhilash. So, strong foundations are the key. Checks and balances, security, like those common sense things. Those foundations are really, 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 really important. But then on top of that, it's about being adaptable and flexible. Okay, so things will keep changing, and no one has all of the answers right now. So the thing is to stay grounded, to stay calm, and be flexible, keep learning. Even I'm taking courses right now. So you have to keep up with it. So strong foundations, security, mindset, and then be flexible, be adaptable. That's the only way you're going to ride this wave, as Rose said. And, you're going to build that IKEA furniture. Maybe the instructions came out with something else. It came out for a standing desk, and in the end, you make like a beautiful bookcase. Who knows? So, yeah, that's my advice.
Perfect. So there you have it, parting words of wisdom from leaders in the industry. I don't believe we have time for any questions from the audience. So before Arvind and Archana kicks us out. So I just wanted to thank Mamta, John, Rose, Chris, and Abby for the great insights, the perspectives. I'm sure the audience enjoyed the conversation as much as I did interacting with all of you. I'll turn it back over to Archana from the AI CoreSpot team to wrap things up.
Thank you, John. And a big thank you to all our speakers, Rose, Chris, Abhilash, Mamta, and John, for sharing such valuable insights today. Today's webinar was broadcasted live on our LinkedIn channel, and the recording will be available for your reference shortly on YouTube. As we near the close of 2025, we have several exciting events lined up across industries like banking, telecom, retail, and beyond. Be sure to visit our website at aicorespot.io and follow us on our social media channels for updates and upcoming knowledge sharing sessions. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to our knowledge and innovation partner InfoVision and our technology partner Digit7 for their significant contributions towards making this webinar a huge success. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to your continued support and participation as we grow. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.